Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be another episode of the Championship Roundup. So in this series, guys, what we do, we round up all the Championship action that has took place in the previous weekend. And this weekend in the Championship, we have had some really bizarre scorelines. I think that's fair to say. And I'm going to go ahead and say this at the start of the video. I think this has probably been the most unpredictable week of Championship football we've had so far. I know we're only 4 games into the season now, but even so, this was a pretty mad weekend. So what I would love to know from you guys is, what did you guys make of your team's performance this weekend? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below, because like I said, we just had some bizarre matches in this one. And I would also love to know from you guys, what did you think was the result of the weekend, and also what did you think was the goal of the weekend? I'll be revealing what I thought they were at the end of the video, but we've got quite a few contenders for this one. So just before we do get into any of the action, guys, I will include your guys' comments on screen now. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to predict any of the scorelines this weekend, I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play to everyone who managed to get a score prediction correct this week. This week I managed to get one of mine correct, so it's not the best but not the worst from me. I managed to get the Derby against Bolton game predicted correct, so that's not too bad going from me. FIFA also got one correct as well. And I must quickly say apologies if I do miss your comment out in this section of the video. Each weekend I have to go through about 800 comments on the video and search through them for each score prediction, and I'm bound to miss some out every now and again, so I do apologise if I do miss your comment out. So guys, let's just go ahead and get into the action. So the first game we have to talk over is the game taking place on Friday night between Burton Albion and Birmingham, and this one of course managed to finish 2-1 to the home side. Now in my opinion, this was a monumental result for Burton Albion. The longer this winless streak went on for Burton at the start of the season, the more it would knock them down and really leave them in a bit of a predicament come the end of the season. They've managed to grab their first 3 points of the season against a decent Birmingham side, so fair play for Burton for this one. In the first half, it probably was Birmingham who had the better of it. Magoma was definitely their danger man in the first half. He managed to grab them the first goal after about half an hour had gone in this game here today. But it was the second half really when Burton really seemed to turn the screw and turn this game around. Nigel Clough switched around the formation and switched around some of the players, and Birmingham just couldn't seem to deal with them in the second half. The goal Marvin Sordell scored to get Burton back into this game was an absolute peach. He completely spun his man and then fired it into the back of the net. It was a fantastic goal from him, and then of course Dyer managed to win it in the 66th minute. And Birmingham, I thought, will have been a little bit disappointed, but this is a huge 3 points for Burton. And then into the next game we do go, we had the local derby taking place this weekend between Sheffield United and Barnsley. So of course the early kickoff on Saturday, and this one was a very fiery match. I think that's fair to say. It was Billy Sharp who grabbed Sheffield United the lead after just 17 minutes had gone in this game, as Sheffield United, they were coming out the traps in this one, you know. Quite a few tackles were going in, and you could tell both these two sides were pretty fired up for this one, and the tempers just boiled over in the 42nd minute when both teams had a player sent off. For Sheffield United, it was Leon Clark, and for Barnsley, it was Angus MacDonald. It was a stupid thing to get sent off for, really. They seemed to get into a bit of a scuff with each other, have a bit of an argument, and then they both seemed to put their heads into each other and have a bit of a headbutt into each other. Ridiculous to get sent off for that sort of thing, you know. Of course, both of them then had to play the second half when they were down to 10 men, and that did sort of seem to limit Barnsley, really. Going forward, they weren't offering too much in this game. They only actually had one shot on target, and probably Sheffield United maybe should have killed off this game, actually. They did have quite a few opportunities to make it 2-0, then 3-0. They just couldn't seem to put them away, but a good win for them in the end. And then to our next game we do go. We had, definitely in my opinion, the game of the weekend. What a bizarre game this was in the end. It finished Aston Villa 4, Norwich City 2, and wow, what a game. We have to start out with the player of this game, Conor Hourihane. What an unbelievable game he had in this one. Scoring a hat-trick from central midfield, Norwich just couldn't seem to deal with him in this one. In the first half, Aston Villa were completely the dominant force. They went into half-time being leading 2-0, but honestly, they could and probably should have had more goals than that. They were absolutely going in at Norwich. Norwich just couldn't seem to deal with them in any area of the pitch in the first half. If it wasn't for Angus Gunn, Aston Villa would have had a lot more goals in this game. In the second half, to be fair to Norwich, they did get back into this game with goals from Jacob Murphy and Nelson Oliveira. Norwich fans, let me know down below, what do you make of the current Nelson Oliveira situation? In my opinion, he has to be starting for you because he's come on from the bench there and managed to get you back into this game. But in the end, that wasn't enough, and the goal of this game, I'm going to have to give it to Green. What an unbelievable goal it was from him. Just bending it into the top corner. That was an absolute peach of a finish, and fair play to Aston Villa. They did deserve this one. Then for our next fixture we had the game which I actually managed to successfully predict this weekend, taking place between Bolton Wanderers and Derby County. Now, in this game, I didn't think Bolton were probably at their best in this one. Derby, defensively, I am a little bit concerned for Bolton this season, as we've already seen a couple times so far them being caught out defensively, and it was David Nugent who was Derby's star man in this game. You just can't allow him to have any sort of space inside the box, you know. David Nugent is that typical championship goal poacher. If you allow him any space inside the box, chances are he's going to gobble it up, and he did that in this game today. Derby were leading 2-0 after just 21 minutes in this game, so that in the end just caused an absolute mountain for Bolton to climb. In the second half, I thought Derby perhaps did get a tiny bit complacent. They probably could have gone on to get more goals in this game, but didn't do so in the end. Tom Lawrence as well coming on as a substitute and him showing a couple of flashes in this one. It was Gary Medine who got Bolton a goal back in this one, but in the end that just turned out to be a consolation goal. Our next game we then had was between Bristol City and Millwall, and in the end this one finished as a 0-0 draw. I actually said in the preview to this game, this is one of the games which I can see quite a few goals being scored in, and of course it ended 0-0 in the end, but probably not the best game of the weekend. Both of these lacking a little something going forward, I think it's fair to say. Defensively, they both look pretty stable for this one. I believe that's Bristol City's first clean sheet of this season, which will be a good factor for them going forward, but with some of the creative players going forward for Bristol City, which we've come to expect this season, they weren't really at their sparkling best in this one, and Millwall did well to nullify them. And then for our next game we had two of last season's playoff contenders coming up against each other in this one, and in the end it was the away side Sheffield Wednesday who managed to take all the spoils with a 1-0 away victory. And fair play to Sheffield Wednesday, you know, they've definitely had their critics so far this season, and rightly so. You know, it's not been a brilliant start for them, but they finally got off the mark with this one with quite an impressive away victory at Fulham. Now, I'll be very interested to hear from Fulham fans after this game actually. What's your current opinion of how you think this season will now go for you? Because in my opinion, Fulham are... it's a really difficult one. They are creating a lot of chances in seemingly every game they play at the moment. They are creating a lot of chances. They're just not having that clinical edge which we came to expect from them last season, you know. At will, they seem to be able to create opportunities, but they don't have that clinical edge in front of goal anymore. I don't know what's missing from Fulham at the moment, if it's just players going forward maybe aren't as in form as they were last time out, or do you think you need a couple more players to come in? But it was Stephen Fletcher who won the game for Sheffield Wednesday, a thumping effort into the back of the net after a nice little run from Adam Reach who gave it to him. So fair play to Sheffield Wednesday, they got their first win in this one. And then for our next fixture we did have Ipswich Town who came up against Brentford, and probably one of the surprise packages so far this season has been Ipswich Town. What an unbelievable start to the season it has been for them, and it was their two star men so far this season, Martin Waghorn and Joe Garner, who were both on the score sheet for this one. They just seem to be lighting it up in the championship at the moment, and I've got to say it has surprised me because they were okay for Rangers in the Scottish League, but they were never really setting anything light. But for Ipswich, Mick McCarthy just seems to have found the magic formula to get the best out of these two. In terms of Brentford, I just don't know what's going wrong with them at the moment. In this game here today, they created 22 opportunities and they just fluffed their lines on every single one of them. They were hitting the crossbar, they were hitting the post. The Ipswich keeper was kept quite busy in this one, but something just doesn't seem to be clicking with Brentford at the moment. Quite similar to Fulham actually. They create a lot of chances in each game they play, but they just can't seem to get anything over the line. Defensively as well, I'm not sure Brentford are up to it this season. I think there's quite a few questions that are still being asked of them at the moment, and fair play to Ipswich, they're on an absolute roll at the moment. And then for our next fixture we had one of the results of the weekend, most definitely. That was Nottingham Forest, who managed to dispatch Middlesbrough by 2-1. Now in this game here today, this was, you know, a lot being hyped up about this match, about Aston returning to Nottingham Forest, and I've got to say he did actually squander quite a few chances in this one. I think he had one glorious opportunity in the first half when he seemed to be running through on goal. He was put under a bit of pressure by defenders defenders, but in the end he scuffed his shot and put it wide, which I know a lot of Nottingham Forest fans seem to find entertaining. But Nottingham Forest, fair play to them. They've been another surprise package for me so far this season. Barry Mackay seems to be a very shrewd signing for them. He was on the goal sheet once again for Nottingham Forest, and Daryl Murphy, who dispatched the penalty late on in this one to win the match. It was a fantastic penalty from him. Middlesbrough did get back into this game with Ben Gibson scoring in the 83rd minute. In the end, it wasn't enough. They did miss quite a few opportunities in this one, Middlesbrough. On another day, that might not have been the case, but fair play to Forest. And then for our next fixture we had my club, Preston North End, who came up against Reading, and in the end, Preston managed to leave with a 1-0 victory. Now, in terms of this game, did I think this was deserved for Preston? Absolutely. I don't think any Reading fans can really have any complaints about this scoreline. The only disappointing thing from a Preston fan's perspective was that it wasn't more than 1-0 really. We probably should have gone on to bury this game in the second half with some of the chances we had. Hugel had a great chance in the second half, Barkusen had a great chance, Maguire had a couple of chances as well, but in the end 1 goal was enough for Preston. Reading, I was quite disappointed with them really. They had quite a bit of possession, but they couldn't force anything. I think Maxwell only had 1 save to make in the entire match, and I will say this about Reading, they were quite unfortunate with 2 of their star men being injured going off in the first half. Both Swift and Kelly were both forced off with injuries early on, so that's where they were a little bit unlucky, but in the end Preston were just a better team. And then into our next game we had Queen's Park Rangers, who came up against Hull City. Now, talking about injuries actually, Hull City just seem to be a team which is really getting unfortunate so far this season with injuries. Of course, coming into this game they already had a couple of injuries, including Abel Hernandez, who seemingly could actually be out for the whole season for Hull. So Hull fans, let me know down below, how big of a loss do you think Abel Hernandez will actually be? In my opinion, it is a massive blow for them. But in this game here today, more of the same really for Hull. They just can't seem to catch a break. But it was actually Bowen who gave Hull the lead in this game. In the first half, they weren't looking too bad. They managed to go into half-time with the 1-0 lead. But in the second half, QPR managed to come to the forefront, and it was Smith who got the equaliser on the 74th minute, and then in a stoppage time in this one, it was Cilia who poked into the back of the net. After some fantastic work from Connor Washington, QPR managed to go ahead and grab all 3 points. I've got to say as well, QPR have been one of the surprise packages, so QPR fans, do you think this is just temporary, this sort of form, or do you think you'll be able to sustain it? And then for our next fixture we then had Wolves, who came up against Cardiff, and once again a contender for the result of the weekend. Cardiff managed to take full advantage with the 2-1 victory over Wolves. Now, of course, this was a huge clash of the Titans at the top of the Championship. Second coming up against first in this one, and Cardiff were actually able to take all the spoils in this one. 2 different game styles coming up against each other. I think it's fair to say Cardiff probably being a more physical presence than Wolves, and Wolves being maybe a little bit more technical. But in the end, it was Cardiff who came out on top of this one. Wolves, I don't think they were out there shining best from what we have seen them in this game, but I think a lot of that has to be contributed to Cardiff and the game plan they actually came to impose on Wolves in this game here today. I think quite a bit of credit has to be given for that. One thing that was a little bit of a dampener was Cardiff could and probably should have had a man sent off in this game. I think it was Demore who had an elbow going into a Wolves player's neck, it seemed like, and he was shown a yellow card for that. Possibly that could have been a red card and then the whole game could have been flipped on its head, but I've got to give a lot of credit for this one because not many people were tipping Cardiff to win this game, and in the end they did it. Fair play to Cardiff, they're top of the Championship. And then for the last game we had Sunderland who came up against Leeds United, and in the end it was Leeds who managed to go ahead and grab the 2-0 away victory. Now there is quite a, I'd say there's a sort of like a conspiracy theory going around that whenever Simon Grayson comes up against Leeds, he just never gets a result. Of course, he is a Leeds fan himself, so maybe there's something dodgy going on with that. I don't think so, but he just has a terrible record, seemingly, against Leeds United. But in terms of this game, until Leeds did get their first goal, Sunderland were looking quite decent, actually, I thought, in this game. They were looking for just a couple of opportunities, just didn't seem to have that cutting edge going forward. Some of their more creative players weren't really at their best in this game, and in the end, Leeds managed to take full advantage to that and in the end they probably did deserve the victory. Of course, the big news coming out of Leeds at this point in time is the story surrounding Chris Wood. He looks like he's going to be moving on to Burnley now, so of course, Chris Wood wasn't playing in this game, so they did sort of show that they are capable of getting results without him. So Leeds fans, who would you like to see replace Chris Wood in this transfer window? Let me know down below. So in terms of my goal of the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Andre Green for his absolute screamer he scored against Norwich. It was just absolutely sublime. From the edge of the box, he managed to cut inside and then just bend it into the top corner. Angus Good stood no chance, and it was a terrific finish. And then my result of the weekend, there are quite a few contenders for this one, and I'll be interested to know what you guys have to say about this one, but I'm going to give it to Cardiff. Seemingly not many people were giving them much of a chance going into this game, and up until this point, Wolves were looking pretty unstoppable. I think that's fair to say. So Cardiff have put an end to Wolves' winning streak, and for that, I'm giving them result of the weekend. So there you guys have it. That will wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So if you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you comment in the comments down below all of your thoughts on this weekend's Championship action. I'll be very interested to know as to what you guys are thinking. But apart from that, that will wrap it up for this video. So like I said, make sure you do like if you have enjoyed. Also as well, make sure you do subscribe for regular Championship content. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.